Okay, so Pathologic 3 just dropped on January 9th, and I've been playing it nonstop for like a week. And I genuinely don't know if I'm having fun or if I've just been psychologically damaged. But I need to talk about this game. So here's the deal. Pathologic 3 is the third entry in this absolutely unhinged psychological horror RPG series from Russian indie studio Ice Pick Lodge. And it's basically a cult classic franchise that's been terrorizing small groups of masochists since 2005. The game is $35 on Steam, PS5, and GOG. There's also a supporter bundle for like 50 something dollars that gets you a digital art book and soundtrack. And the Xbox Series version just launched on January 23rd. I've been playing the PC version, and yeah, this game is not messing around. You play as Daniil Denkovsky, who's this pompous doctor from the capital, obsessed with conquering death, and you arrive in this remote steppe town to meet an allegedly immortal man, except oops, the plague hits, the immortal guy dies, and you have 12 in-game days to save the town or watch everyone die horribly. Oh, and also you failed your first attempt, so the whole game is about rewinding time using this weird substance called amalgama to fix your mistakes and try again. It's like Groundhog's Day, except everyone's dying of plague and also you might be going insane. Steam reviews are sitting at 81% positive, which for a game this aggressively weird and unforgiving is honestly impressive. Alright, so what actually works in this game? Because despite everything I'm about to tell you, I genuinely think this is a masterpiece. The time manipulation mechanic is the star of the show, and it's implemented in such a cool way. You can jump forward to see what happens in the future, then rewind back to earlier days to change your decisions, but it costs amalgama, which is a limited resource you get from breaking mirrors and completing story events. This isn't a save scum system, it's a strategic tool where you're meant to fail and learn, and then use that knowledge to make better choices. The game is fully aware that you're time traveling. Daniil knows he's doing it. NPCs will sometimes reference your previous attempts, and the whole narrative is built around this idea of replaying events and dealing with the consequences. It turns failure into part of the story instead of just a game over screen, which is brilliant. The diagnosis system is way more involved than I expected, and honestly, it's the most satisfying part of the gameplay. You examine patients face to face, listen to their symptoms, perform physical inspections, gather environmental clues, and then make a clinical judgment about what's wrong with them. Patients lie, they hide information, they misunderstand their own symptoms, so you have to be a detective and actually think through the evidence. Getting a diagnosis right feels amazing, and getting it wrong has real consequences because you waste precious resources and people can die. There's this whole hospital management layer where you set up your base of operations, treat patients, research the plague, and it all feeds into your understanding of how to stop the disease. The decree system is also really cool. You can issue town-wide orders like quarantines, curfews, resource confiscation, patrol routes, and each one has trade-offs between public health and civil unrest. Lock down a district and you slow the plague, but people riot and lose trust in you. It's a constant balancing act, and there are no right answers, just difficult choices. The mental state system replaces traditional survival mechanics with this apathy versus mania meter that's genuinely oppressive. Apathy slows you down and eventually kills you. Mania speeds you up but drains your health, and you have to balance between them by interacting with items or choosing certain dialogue options. It's way more thematically interesting than managing hunger and thirst bars, and it reinforces the psychological horror angle. The story is also phenomenal if you're into dense philosophical narratives about death, immortality, fate versus free will, and whether you can actually save everyone or if some loss is inevitable. The writing is sharp, the voice acting is excellent, especially for conveying Daniil's arrogance and detachment, and when the emotional beats hit, they really hit. The atmosphere is incredible too. The town feels lived in and oppressive. The visual design has this unsettling theatrical quality, and the sound design is perfect at building tension without being overbearing. But okay, let's talk about the problems because oh my god, this game does not want you to succeed and also it has some real technical issues. First off, the performance is rough across all platforms. PC players are reporting stutters and frame drops, especially in areas with heavy foliage or when the plague effects kick in, with all the fog and particle effects. Steam Deck players say it's barely playable, like 20 to 30 FPS on low settings, and it drops even lower in plague zones. One reviewer said the Steam Deck version is, quote, an act of dedication, not convenience, which is the nicest way to say it runs like garbage. PS5 version has some hiccups and stutters that got better with patches, but it's still not perfectly smooth. Xbox Series seems okay, but not amazing. The cutscenes were freezing and stuttering at launch, though they released a hotfix that mostly fixed it. The game also has this problem where it's split into districts connected by a map screen with loading sequences between them, and while the loads are short, they constantly pull you out of immersion, which sucks in a game that's all about atmosphere and tension. Some people also figured out you can exploit the fast travel system to bypass infected zones entirely, which kind of breaks the tension. There are bugs too, particularly around combat de-escalation. The game is designed so violence is avoidable, but sometimes the systems don't work right and you get stuck in combat when you shouldn't be. Reviewers mentioned inconsistent cutscene behavior and noticeable hitches that break immersion. The non-linear time structure can be genuinely confusing, like the game doesn't hold your hand at all, and you're expected to piece together what's happening across multiple timelines, which can feel overwhelming, especially early on. The dialogue is also extremely long-winded, like there are hours of people talking, and some NPCs just ramble without giving you anything useful. One review specifically called out the kids who just talk nonsense with no direction. If you're not into reading pages of text, this game will drive you insane. The pacing is also intentionally slow. This is not an action game. It's a detective doctor sandbox where you spend most of your time investigating, diagnosing, and talking to people. Some players found the story gets convoluted in the second half with too many overlapping threads, and the fractured timeline makes it worse. Also, this game is absolutely not for newcomers to the series. Like, you can technically play it standalone, but you'll get way more out of it if you've played Pathologic 2 or the original, because there's a ton of lore and references that won't make sense otherwise. And just in general, this game is punishingly difficult, not in a mechanical way, but in an intellectual and emotional way. It demands patience, it demands attention, and it will make you feel bad about your choices constantly. That's the point, but it's not for everyone. So, fun or refund? Is Pathologic 3 worth $35 in 2026? Okay, this is tough because this is genuinely one of the most ambitious and unique games I've ever played, but it is absolutely not for most people. If you're into narrative-driven psychological horror, if you love games that challenge you intellectually instead of just mechanically, if you want something that treats you like an adult and doesn't hold your hand, if you're fascinated by philosophical questions about death and morality and the cost of trying to save everyone, then this is a must-play. This is one of the best written games of the year. The time manipulation mechanic is genuinely innovative. The diagnosis system is brilliant, and when everything comes together, it's an unforgettable experience. But if you want a fun, casual game, if you hate reading tons of dialogue, if you get frustrated by difficulty or confusion, if you need polished performance and no bugs, then hard refund. Do not touch this. This game will make you miserable on purpose, and if that's not your vibe, you will hate it. Also, if you're on Steam Deck, just wait. The performance is not good enough to justify playing it portable. Play it on a proper PC or console. For everyone else, if you're even slightly interested in what I've described, I'd say it's a fun, but know what you're getting into. This is slow, dense, confusing, buggy, and emotionally exhausting. It's also brilliant, unique, thought-provoking, and unlike anything else you'll play this year. The devs are patching it daily, so bugs are getting fixed, performance is slowly improving, and the game will probably be in better shape in a few months. But even with all the rough edges, I can't stop thinking about it, and I keep going back to try different approaches and see what changes. For $35, you're getting like 40 to 60 hours of deeply unsettling content that'll stick with you long after you finish. If you're part of the target audience for this game, you already know who you are, and you're probably already playing it. For everyone else, watch some gameplay first, maybe wait for a sale, and decide if you're ready to suffer beautifully. I'm giving it a conditional fun for people who understand exactly what this is, which is a brilliant, punishing, philosophical nightmare that respects your intelligence while actively trying to make you uncomfortable. Not for everyone, perfect for some people, and I'm glad it exists.